Welcome back. You're watching the final hour of today, and it's our favorite feature on a Sunday, Entrepreneurship, My Journey. We've got Beauty Monene, who is a woman who wears many hats. She's a mother, a wife, a daughter, a mentor and a friend, in addition to being a successful entrepreneur. Now, her desire is to make a name for herself in business and, of course, to provide chances for individuals in her community to lead an establishment, or rather to establish an establishment of Monenebe Maintenance and Projects, a plant hire firm that serves the mining sector in South Africa. To discuss this further, she joins us in studio this afternoon, or this evening rather. Thank you very much for your time this evening. And I mean, it's an industry that is dominated by men, not traditionally something that a woman would look to get into. What inspired your journey?
A lot of things. I'm actually a technical person. I've done BCom, I've studied BCom accounting, but I've got a technical mind, and I've had that at a young age. And I grew up amongst boys, so there's a boy in me. Yeah. So I was inspired by a lot of things when I was growing up. You know, when something is actually broken at my home, I would try to fix it myself. Seeing what my brother was doing, I would follow suit. And yeah, whilst I was young, I had this boy who was a friend of mine, who's still a friend of mine today. You know, once we actually unpacked a radio and repacked it again. So the technicality that I have, technical mind that I have, has inspired me in a lot of ways. So like if somebody is repairing my car, I would want to see what they're doing, you know, without being a mechanic, by the way. So I would ask questions. You know, sometimes it would even irritate my husband because he would feel like, but why do you ask these questions, you know? But I want to know, I want to understand what's happening so that I can have the logic of it. So being in a man-dominated environment has not been a scary thing for me because I grew up being used to it. Yeah, yes.
It might have not been scary for you, but I'm sure there might have been some pushback because there are certain industries that we've been taught are reserved for certain people. So I wonder, in the challenges that you faced along the way, was there any pushback to be saying you're not supposed to be doing any kind of technical work, certainly not in the mining industry?
I've met such. You know, I was once in a meeting, and there was this one big guy who was like, "Who's this Beauty?" You know, I was like, "This is me," say, you know. But what do you know about plant hire? I said, you know, what I know is the service that you would require. And I've got the capability to give you that service. And that guy was like, "Whew, no, I'm not comfortable with this, but it is your call." You know, he was actually pointing to the end user at the time. And I said, "You know what, give me time, try and work with me, and let's see." And indeed, within a short space of time, actually, this guy ended up being the one who recommends me in the work a few years later. So I think the most important thing is to respect each other. When you work with men, I've been in a space where I would ask questions. I would ask them questions because, you know, dominating as they are, but when you ask and you work together, you find them cooperating, helpful. And a lot of men that I've worked with, they've actually took me along. They took me by hand and say, "No, this is," because I would ask and say, "My brother, I don't know how to do this and this. Can you help me with 1, 2, 3?" And they would help me and say, "Let me come and show you." And I would ask questions and they would help me. You know, even if it's white people, I would come and say, "You know what, I don't know this. Would you mind to show me or take me through it?" You know. Yes.
Tell us about industry challenges and you breaking into the market. What were some of those challenges that you faced? Did you have issues of funding? Did you have issues of access to the market? And really, how did you overcome those?
Okay. Access to funding has always been a problem, and it continues to be a problem. in SMMEs, you know, supporting of SMMEs. I was attending a session yesterday where they were talking about access to funding. And a lot of times is that we made to believe that there's funds, but the criteria, it becomes too high for us, especially black entrepreneurs. You know, you'd find that the qualification to qualify for that funding, they need experience, they need you to have a startup, you would have had started your business and everything else, and that makes it a bit difficult to break through in it. And in accessing in terms of the mining industry, it was not easy. I had to prove myself. I remember when I started at my home village in Mokopane, you know, they gave me a 1-year contract, and the equipment, each equipment was costing about 3 million. No funder will fund you for an equipment of 3 million for a 1-year project. And the mine was like, you know, we don't trust, because we've been given contracts before and people failed and companies failed, and we end up having lawsuits. So as a result, we don't actually give long-term contracts. And I had to actually go and rent equipment. And thanks to my husband, who actually helped me and supported me at the time. You know, he had to go borrow from friends and say, look, borrow my wife. And as soon as she gets paid, she'll pay you.
Yeah, I mean, we have run out of time, but I have to ask you, you've been able to grow the business into over 20 employee stronghold, and it's grown as well quite significantly. With that, what advice would you give a young woman who's looking to get into a traditionally tough industry, but is determined to break through?
The first thing is to ask, you know, be involved in what you're doing. I think I was actually quite, I don't know whether to call it luck, but in the industry, whilst I was there, I would ask questions. And, you know, you get like Anglo-Zimele. Anglo-Zimele, it's within the Anglo-American environment where they were helping. And I did not sit back. They would help young entrepreneurs in terms of coaching them to get jobs, in terms of coaching them to actually aspire, them, you know, to acquire equipment. And I would say to young women, don't sit back, go and ask. You know, there's a say in Zulu that you know, how would you get it if you're sitting back? But if you go out and ask and you know, seek those opportunities, you get them. But if you sit back and you hold back, they won't come to you. You know, and you will point it by finger and say, you know, I wanted to do that. I was thinking about doing that. But because you never went and pull yourself and move a step, yes.
No, thank you very much. I suppose the worst thing someone could say is no. You know, and I suppose that's what you take away. And you just keep trying. Thank you for those insights. That is beauty, that is entrepreneur Beauty Monene joining us in our Entrepreneurship My Journey feature this evening. We've got more coming up after the break. Do stay with us on Today.